After 2 nights at the Delamont campsite, I headed to Downpatrick via Inch Abbey, only to discover the Downpatrick washing machines were also out of order. Quoile was once strategically important in its own right as a port, but also because of the fortification it protected the upper port of Downpatrick. Now it is better known as a location for filming of Game of Thrones. This is all that remains of the Hilda. She was about 35 metres long and carried 130 tonnes of coal. In 1922, she mysteriously caught fire, and it is suspected she was an insurance job. This was a lovely little park up I spotted on the map. Next stop, Castle Ward, truly a house of 2 halves. The husband wanted classic, the wife wanted Gothic, so they compromised and hence built the house in 2 halves, with the front being classic and the back being Gothic. Just look at this ceiling. Mr. Ward thought the ornate work in the hall was taking too long, so he gave the plasterers 3 weeks to complete the work. Their solution was to go round the house getting certain items and dipping them in plaster, including the butler's violin. Castle Ward was also used for filming of Game of Thrones. Entry for non-National Trust members is £13, but be aware that the house is only open certain days of the week. I think this is the only stately home I've been in where you can actually see where they did the laundry and how they dried it on days when it couldn't go outside. Lately I have found some really nice park-ups, and this one opposite the church at St John's Point was no exception. This tiny 10th century church with its sloping door jambs is an excellent example of a pre-Romanesque church. Rainwater collected in a ballon was supposed to have healing properties. This was my view for the night. After an incredibly windy night, I walked down to the lighthouse. I then walked along this gorgeous rugged coastline to the village of Killock, where I had a cup of coffee and a snack before walking back. Unfortunately, the pub was shut for refurbishment. It was about 3.5 miles each way. So sad to think this was once somebody's home and their livelihood. If only the fireplace could talk, I wonder what tales it could tell. The walk had a lot of ladder styles, and the dog coped really well, although some of them were much easier than others. I was also glad I decided to wear my Wellingtons. I also found what I think might have been a seagull skull. I would have loved to have spent another night here, but instead I headed just up the road to a little car park on the edge of the coast. As this park up was near some houses, I headed off early in the morning and spent the day at Tyrola Beach. Sadly, despite several litter bins, there were masses of cans and litter around, so I did a litter pick. Another park up I spotted on the map. It was Saturday night and this one was opposite the church, so I left early on the Sunday morning. I headed to Dundrum Castle and was fascinated to read about the changes of ownership, mainly by force, over the centuries. I spotted this on my way to Dundrum and decided to come back and spend the night here. The bonus was it was right on the coastal path, so the dog and I had another walk. I then headed to Tollymore Park as I'd seen lots of interesting looking walks alongside the river. It was absolutely gorgeous and well worth the £5 parking fee. I chose the red walk as it was alongside the river, but as it was a bit short I added part of the black walk on as well and did about 8 miles in all. The hermitage was built in 1770 and sits about 20 feet above the river. It was built partly as a memorial to one of the Earl's friends who died at the young age of 35. It would have been popular as a meeting place or somewhere to just sit quietly and contemplate life. I hate these things. It was bad enough driving commercially in someone else's lorry. When it's your own van, it's really nerve-wracking. No. As it was 5 o'clock by the time I'd finished walking around the park, I then chose this park up, which was just down the road. You're supposed to stay on there. Up. Good boy. He's a clever boy.